Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. If you are new, I love to use these Knorr packets every once in a while. They're such a great pantry staple, and they can also be used not just for side dishes, but also to make a full-blown meal. So I hope you enjoy this video. Let's go ahead and get started. First up today, we're going to be making this super easy, creamy, cheesy chicken and rice. To start off, over to my pot, I'm adding 1 tablespoon of butter and just a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to let this heat up while I move on to my chicken. For my chicken, I have 2 chicken breasts. I'm going to slice both of them in half. And I'm just going to keep the seasoning super simple with this. I'm sprinkling each one with some onion powder, garlic powder, pepper, and salt. There really is no need to measure your seasonings, just sprinkle them each with a little of each seasoning, and then you're going to flip them over and do the same thing to the other side. Now we're going to take the chicken back over to the pot. My oil is nice and hot in here now. I'm going to add each of my chicken breasts in here. My chicken breasts were slightly still frozen in a few spots, so I had to cook them just a little longer. You just want them to get some good color on both sides and make sure they hit at least 165 degrees. Now that my chicken's done, I'm just going to remove that over to a separate plate. Into my pot, I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of butter. We are going to be using the same pot. And then after the butter melts down a bit, you're going to add about 1 heaping tablespoon of minced garlic. I'm just going to let this garlic cook for about 1 minute. Next, I'm adding in 2 cups of milk and 2 cups of water. We're going to be using this creamy chicken rice here. It says to only add 2 cups of water. We are using 2 packages. To make this a little extra creamy, we're going to replace 2 cups of that water with 2 cups of milk. That's why I'm adding 2 cups of each. You'll want to make sure that you stir this every once in a while just to make sure that the rice is not sticking to the bottom. It doesn't take too long for this rice to cook, so once it's done and thickened up just like this, we're going to start adding the rest of our ingredients. I'm adding 1 can of Italian-style diced tomatoes and 1.5 teaspoons of basil, and then I'm just going to give this a good stir. While I let those tomatoes heat up in there, I'm just going to come over here and slice up my chicken. You do not have to do this. If you don't want to, you could leave the chicken whole, or you could cube it up real small and just mix it in with the rice. But for me, I just wanted to slice it up and lay it over the top just like this. This is what my finished plate looked like. I did sprinkle the top with a little bit of mozzarella cheese. Parmesan cheese is really good on top of here as well. And then I topped it off with a little bit of parsley and red pepper flakes. Up next, we're going to be making some Knorr Tacos. This is a really great way to extend the amount of food you have without having to double the amount of ground beef. To begin, I'm chopping half of a yellow onion into nice small pieces, and then over to my pan, I'm adding 1 pound of ground beef, and then I'm going to add the onion in here as well, and just let these two cook together. Once your ground beef is done, if you have a lot of grease in your pan, make sure you get rid of that. Next, we're going to be adding 1 bag of this Mexican rice. You can also use the Spanish rice if you want to, and we are going to be adding the recommended amount of water on the back, and we are going to skip the butter. You do not want to add butter into this dish. Next, I'm also adding 1 small can of green chilies, and then I'm going to get that mixed together. Once my rice was cooked through, I went ahead and added in some lime juice. You only want to add about a teaspoon or 2 just to give it a little extra flavor. I added a little bit too much and I knew my husband probably wouldn't like the flavor, so I ended up adding a little taco seasoning just to kind of make it not so intense, but you don't necessarily need to add taco seasoning unless you want to. Here is what my finished plate looked like. You can eat these just like normal tacos with a soft shell or hard shell. You can even have these as nachos. It's just a great way to make your meat go a little further and a great pantry staple to have, and I just topped mine with all my favorite taco toppings. Next, we're going to be making this garlic and herb casserole. Go ahead and preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Over to my cutting board, I have 6 boneless, skinless chicken thighs. If you don't like chicken thighs, feel free to use chicken breasts for this recipe. I would just use 2 large ones and cut them in half. To season these up, I am using some Medea Complete, garlic powder, a little bit of rosemary, and parsley. If you want to, you can also add salt and pepper, but honestly, there is so much sodium in this recipe, it's not really needed. Season with your heart and be sure to season up both sides of your chicken. Now in a 9x13 casserole dish, you're just going to spray that down with some nonstick spray. Very important for this recipe because the rice will stick if you don't. I'm going to be adding in 2 of these butter and herb rice packets. On the back of the bag, it does say to add 2 cups of water per bag of rice. We're going to replace that with 2 cups of chicken broth. I am using a low sodium chicken broth. And 2 cups of milk. For this recipe, I actually used half and half just because that's what I had on hand. Next, I'm adding in 1 can of cream of chicken soup. And now very carefully, without spilling this everywhere, you want to try to get this mixed together and get all the clumps of the cream of chicken soup out. Now I'm adding 1 heaping tablespoon of minced garlic. I'm also going to get that stirred around in there. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and start adding our chicken in here. You're just going to transfer the chicken over and just lay it right in there. It'll kind of surround itself with the liquid and the rice. Just make sure you spread the chicken out the best that you can. I also want to mention you can add veggies in here if you like to. Broccoli, mixed vegetables with like peas and carrots, whatever you want to do. If you do add veggies though, make sure you add a little extra seasonings. Now go ahead and cover this with foil, and we're going to transfer this very carefully without spilling any of the liquid into the oven, and it's going to bake for about 40 minutes. At this point, everything should be very close to being all the way done. I do like to go through and kind of mix up the rice a little bit because it does tend to get a little thicker in some places, and just move my chicken around as well. Now over the top, we are going to add about a half cup of shredded mozzarella cheese and about a half cup of shredded parmesan cheese. You can always add more cheese if you'd like to. After adding the cheese, I'm sprinkling over just a bit of parsley as well. Now this is going back in the oven for another 10 minutes uncovered, just long enough to melt the cheese. Here's what my finished plate looked like. I did make broccoli on the side. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know that my husband hates a lot of vegetables, so I tend to make vegetables on the side, but you can definitely cook the veggies in this casserole as well and have it a one-pan meal. If you're interested in some more Knorr videos, I have 2 more videos right there on the screen. You can just click that link and it'll take you right to those videos. They are some really great pantry dinner ideas, so be sure to check those out if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys back here this weekend with another video.